Hey everyone, it's kind of weird not being in a classroom with you all at the moment, but I thought I'd give us some quick little lessons to hopefully maybe get us through this lockdown. Um, if you've got drums at home, obviously it'd be really cool for you to practice a lot so that when we get back to school, we can kind of keep going with what we're already set out doing. But if you don't, you can just sit there ear drumming along to it or just watch along. It might be a bit of a laugh. You can just laugh at my drumming skills. Um, the first sheet that we're going to start on, I'll have the link probably in the description or something, will be the basic rock drum beats. This sheet you've all probably done at some stage. Some of you more advanced drummers probably a few, maybe even a couple of years ago. But some people have just started the sheet and we're working through it at the moment. So I thought it's a really good place to start because it gives us basic understanding of some simple beats that we use quite often when we're playing in drums, and they get progressively harder as we go down the sheet. So I'm just going to go through each one at a time. Hopefully I'll be able to insert a little screenshot of whatever beat I'm playing, but maybe I might need to get some of you guys who are aspiring YouTubers to help me with the editing so I can actually put that in there. Alright, so this is my drum kit. This is where I'm currently in my lounge at home. My wonderful partner Abby has allowed me to set the drums up at home so I can do a few videos for you guys. Everything's mic'd up, so you should be able to hear everything. We've got different mics on different drums, so hopefully the audio is nice and clear so you can listen to them. It'd be a really good idea to listen with headphones on or through a nice stereo so you can actually hear the full range of what we're actually playing. That being said, the first sheet that we're working on, the basic rock drum beats one, we only use 3 parts of the drum kit. As you probably already know, bass drum, the big banging one down the bottom. We've got the snare drum. There's going to be none of that though in this sheet, maybe further down the road. And the hi-hats, which is over to my left here. So only those 3 parts of the drum kit are we using for this sheet. Let's get started. So beat 1 is the first one on the page because, I mean, that's how numbers work. 1 is the start. So I'll play it through a couple of times nice and slowly. If you remember anything about doing these sheets at school, is that we need to get 4 of them nice and evenly paced. Doesn't matter what speed we do them, but I'm going to play them nice and slowly, and then I'm going to speed them up so you can see how it sounds different when we start speeding things up. All right, so this is beat 1. And this is it a little bit faster. So hopefully you are able to hear how I keep my right hand, which is my leading hand. Some of you left-handed drummers will be your left hand, so you'll be playing like this. But I keep the leading hand, whichever my dominant hand is, I keep that nice and steady so that the other drums kind of know where they need to go. I can judge by looking at the sheet. The reason I'm looking at my sheet over here is because I actually forgot to pick up my music stand, and because we're in lockup or lockdown, we're in lockdown. So we're in lockdown, but my stuff is in a lockup, so I'm getting confused. So because we're in lockdown, I can't go get my music stand from the lockup. So that's why it's just sitting over here on my sound mixer. So if you see me looking over here, that's why I'm looking at the sheets. All right, so that was beat 1. I'm going to play it one more time and a little bit faster again. Cool. All right, so now on to beat 2. Beat 2 is almost the same as beat 1. It's just flipped around. So instead of doing 1 bass drum at the start, like that, we're doing 2 bass drums at the start to begin it. And then in the middle, after we do that snare, in the middle, there's only 1 bass drum instead of 2 like it was on the first one. It's less confusing if I just play it. Have a listen. That was beat 1. Beat 2 goes like this. beat 2, a little bit faster, sounds like this. Alright, so hopefully beat 1 and beat 2, they're about the same level of difficulty, and we actually go down in difficulty to get to number 3. Number 3 has 2 bass drums each time, so it's the same thing twice. And the hardest part about this one is that you actually have to keep track of how many you've done, because it's just the same thing over and over. You kind of it's easy to lose track of how many you've done. So that's why the counting that we've been working on in class is also really important. So the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So as I play through this nice and slowly, I'm going to count out loud. Hopefully you can hear it in my beautiful vocal microphone right here. So I'll count along as I'm playing it. All right, here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. See, that's really easy to figure out that I've done 2 in a row. Okay? If you keep counting like that, it's much easier than just keeping track of how many snare drums you have to do or how many bass drums you've done or something like that. It's also a really good idea to keep looking at the sheet as you're playing. But I tell you guys that all the time, so hopefully you already know that. All right, beat 3. I'll do it slowly 4 times, and then I'm going to speed it up 4 times. All right, here we go. Faster. Alright, beat 4 starts to get a little bit trickier here because we actually start pushing the bass drums closer to the first snare drum. So the snare drum comes on the 2, 1 and 2, and then on the and of 2, 1 and 2 and, we've got a bass drum straight away there. That's the trickiest part on this one. If you can get hold of that, then you should be able to play the whole thing through 4 times pretty easily. I'm going to play it slowly and then speed it up. Probably know that by now. A little bit faster. Just to note again, just remember you left-handed drummers, you'll be playing the opposite way around. Maybe I should do them right-handed than left-handed, but I don't want to embarrass myself with my left-handed drumming skills. I can only do a little bit, like... Also, it's a little bit harder to see where my hands are with this camera. This, by the way, is a little... camera that I'm using for my top-down shots. I've never used one before, so hopefully it comes out alright, and my editing skills allow me to actually insert some footage like this. Otherwise, it's going to be a weird orange thing hanging out just above my head, so just ignore it. Beat 5. Beat 5 is almost the same as beat 4. Well, we've got 2 bass drums at the start instead of just 1. So on the 1 and, we've got extra bass drum, 1 and then we've got 2 is a snare, obviously. Then 2 and 3 are the bass drums as well. And then we continue as normal with the snare drum on the 4. So we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Alright, let's do it. A little bit slower first and then a little bit faster. Faster. I really like this beat because it kind of like it starts to have a little bit of a groove to it after you play it for quite a while, and it's really hard to not add extra little bits in as I'm playing it. Like stuff stuff like that, which is a little bit more advanced. Maybe on one of the later sheets, we'll get to something like that. Beat 6. So beat 6, we keep the 2 bass drums at the start, but now we have something else that's we haven't seen yet on the sheet, and it's called a rest. Okay, you'll be able to see that there's a little mark that's down where the bass drum should be. It's a little mark. It's not a note. It's what we call a rest, and it's just telling us that that's where a bass drum could be, but there's not one. Okay, the whole reason it's there is because when we're writing a bar of music, we have to fill it up with either notes that we play or notes that we don't play. Notes that we don't play are called rests. Okay, so we have to fill it up with either notes or rests, and this one has a rest in it on the beat 3. Count 3 of beat 6. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3. That's where the bass drum rest is. And then after that, on the and of 3, we've got a bass drum. And then 4. And then the and of 4 is continued as normal. So we've got 1 and 2 and... Oh, my sheet's just fallen down. Excuse me, guys. Alright, let's try that again. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So hopefully that makes some sense. So I'm going to play through it 4 times slowly, then I'll speed it up. Alright, and a little bit faster. Beat 7. Beat 7 is a little bit different than beat 6. We're going back to 1 bass drum at the start, and then we're putting a bass drum again on the and of 2. That's after the first snare drum, just like we did back on beat 4, where we started to put that extra bass drum just close to the snare there. So we've got 1 and 2 and then we leave a gap, or we hit a hi-hat, but we leave a gap in the bass drum. So we hit a hi-hat on that 3, and then the and of 3 bass drum again, and then 4 snare as per usual, and then finish off with the hi-hat. So beat 7 goes like this. It's one of the most popular beats in pop music. So one of the most popular beats in popular music. Found in a lot of songs, usually a little bit faster. Because it's got kind of a funky little feel to it when we play it a little bit faster. So that was beat 7. I kind of cheated by playing it a little bit faster when I was explaining something else, but you got the idea. Beat 8 is nearly exactly the same as beat 7. But again, we have the 2 bass drums at the start instead of just 1. Everything else is exactly the same. 2 bass drums at the start, and then we've got the bass drums in the same place as number 7. Let's see how that sounds. Hopefully that was a steady speed. I kind of stopped thinking halfway through that, so hopefully it stayed the same speed the whole way through. Alright, now we're going to do it a little bit faster. Beat 8, a little bit faster. Beat 9. I reckon beat 9 is probably one of the easier ones on the sheet because we only have 1 bass drum at the start, and then after the snare, or in between the 2 snares, we've just got 3. So they fill in all the hi-hats with bass drums. So we've got 1 and 2, bass, 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 snare, and. So it's actually quite easy because you don't have to think about where the gaps are or anything. All you need to know is that after the first snare, you fill everything in with bass drums, and then when you get to 4, when you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, you do the snare, and you just finish off with a hi-hat. So 1 and 2 and 3 3, and 4, and here's what it sounds like 4 times. And a little bit faster. I've just realized that I'm actually not wearing shoes. I meant to put shoes on before I started filming so that it didn't look like I was just lounging around at home, but I'm wearing socks. You'll probably be able to see this foot from this camera, but it is what it is. We're all at home. We don't have to put shoes on, do we? So relax, do your thing. At least I put socks on, so you're not looking at my disgusting feet. I'm just kidding. All right, beat 10. Beat 10 is the last one on the sheet, and it ramps up quite severely in difficulty because you can see from the notation, which is the music, that all 3 things that we're playing go at the same time. Then we have a hi-hat, and then we got all 3 of them again, and then it splits them up. So it separates them out after we play the first 2 counts, 1 and 2 and then we go snare, bass, snare, bass. So the snare drums are still technically on 2 and 4, like every other example, but now they're also on 1 and 3. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The hardest part about this one, and the thing that trips most people up, is going back to the start, because you've got to play a bass drum by itself, and then you've got to do one with the snare drum when you go back to the start. So from the end of it, bass, snare, it tricks a lot of people up. So I'm going to try and play it 4 times in a row, nice and slowly, and then I'll play a little bit faster. All right, so here we go. Number 10, nice and slow. I've been told that when I play drums, my concentrating face is actually, it looks really like I'm bored. So if you see me playing, sorry, excuse me. If you see me playing and I'm looking bored, it's because I'm actually concentrating on what I'm playing. Okay, so I could be playing like the most technical, crazy stuff, but my face would just be like, okay, so I'm not bored, I'm just concentrating. All right, here's beat 10 a little bit faster. That's the end of the sheet. That's the whole sheet there. Beat 1 to beat 10. As a special treat, I'm going to try and I'll play the whole thing through in one go. Maybe. I don't know. This is all in one take, so I'll probably stuff it up at some stage. But you get the idea. Okay, and I'll do it faster so it saves a little bit of time. Here we go, beat 1. 2. 3. 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a little bit of stuff up there on beat 9, and I think I missed the hi-hat in like beat 3 because I wasn't concentrating at all. I thought I could do it from memory, but then when I got to beat 3, I started freaking out, so I had to look back at the sheet every single time, which is what you should be doing anyway, so really it's my own fault for not listening to my own advice. So that's basic rock drum beats, the first sheet that all of you would have had when you started lessons with me at some stage, because I find it's really good to give us some solid foundation of beats that we'll actually hear in the music that we're playing, in the music that we're listening to, like pop music, rock music, hip-hop, funk, some jazz, that sort of stuff. It gives us a good foundation of the beats that we're actually listening to, and it's just a really good start in terms of being able to play things that then we can add onto, which you might see in a few sheets time. In a few sheets time? That's a weird expression. But a few sheets time, we'll start playing some stuff with fills, which are when we start... Why am I playing over top of myself talking? When we start playing around the drum kit and we start using the other drums, like the toms. You might also notice that I don't have a tom 2. Okay, so anything that has a tom 2, I'll probably just play on tom 1. And the floor tom. I also have a cowbell, so that's pretty exciting. I don't know if there's any sheets that cover cowbells, but cowbells are cool. That's all I've got to say about that, really. So that wraps up the first lesson that we're going to be doing in this weird, unusual way. I hope you're all keeping safe, looking after those around you. We're all in this together, to quote High School Musical, which I watched the other day. My girlfriend made me watch it. So I got really sidetracked there. I'll see you in the next lesson. Hopefully the stuff that we've done in this one has been useful. Yeah. See you later.